It is 11:40 p.m. Ice water is pouring over your shoes. Your brain screams one word. Up, you need to get to the top of the ship. But if you listen to your brain right now, you are going to die. When the Titanic hit the iceberg, it triggered the most basic survival instinct built into human DNA. Get to high ground. Move away from the water. Climb. But the Titanic was not a natural environment. It was a machine. A floating labyrinth of steel corridors, dead ends, and locked gates. And in a maze, your instincts are your worst enemy. The people who survived that night were not the ones who ran fastest. They were the ones who ignored their brain's immediate panic and understood the geometry of the disaster. Because going up was a trap. Imagine a massive 10-story office building. Now turn off all the lights. Now tilt the entire building forward 20 degrees in the dark. If freezing water was rising up your legs in that pitch-black building, would you stop to think? Or would you just run blindly for the nearest staircase? Almost everyone on the Titanic ran for the stairs, especially in third class, deep in the belly of the ship. When the water breached their cabins, thousands of people flooded the narrow hallways, pushing forward and upward. But the ship was legally required to be segregated. There were heavy steel gates separating the classes. If you just followed the crowd up the nearest set of stairs, you did not reach the lifeboats. You reached a locked iron ceiling. You reached a dead end. The crowd behind you kept pushing up, trapping you against the steel. The very instinct to climb is what pinned hundreds of people in the dark. Have you ever been in a crowded stadium when a massive game ends? Everyone stands up at the exact same time and pushes toward the exact same exit. The doorway becomes a concrete bottleneck. You can't breathe. You can't move your arms. Now imagine that stadium is sinking into the Atlantic Ocean. How many people do you think you could push past if your life depended on it? When 1,500 terrified people all try to go up the grand staircases at once, the stairs stop being an escape route. They become a physical barrier. But deep in the boiler rooms, a small group of mechanics and stokers made a completely different calculation. The water was rushing in fast. The roar of the ocean tearing through the steel was deafening. Their instincts screamed at them to climb out immediately. They didn't. Instead of going up, they went sideways. They moved horizontally through the ship, running backward through the burning boiler rooms, away from the rising water, deeper into the mechanical guts of the vessel. They ran the wrong way, and because they did, they bypassed the locked gates. They bypassed the panicked crowds. They found a hidden set of vertical ash hoists, small, dirty ladders used by the crew to dump coal waste. They climbed those obscure ladders straight to the upper decks. They survived because they fought the urge to climb until they were in the exact right position. But going up too early was just as deadly for the wealthiest people on board. The first-class passengers were already near the top of the ship. When the alarm sounded, many of them walked directly up to the boat deck. But the boat deck was completely exposed to the open ocean, and the air temperature was -2 degrees Celsius. It is exactly like stepping out of a warm, comfortable house into a brutal winter blizzard wearing nothing but your pajamas. Your body physically rejects it. The cold literally hurts your skin. So the wealthy passengers did what anyone would do. They turned around and went back inside. They walked away from the lifeboats. They retreated into the grand, heated rooms of the ship to wait for instructions. They walked into a warm trap. There was one room in particular, the first-class smoking room. It was luxurious, filled with leather chairs, warm wood, and soft lighting. It felt incredibly safe. If someone told you the floor you were standing on was about to drop to the bottom of the ocean, but the room felt completely warm and solid right now, would you believe them? Many of them didn't. They stayed in that warm room, drinking and talking, ignoring the chaos outside. By the time the angle of the deck became too steep to ignore, by the time they realized the ship was actually going down, it was too late. The lifeboats were already gone. Thomas Andrews, the man who designed the Titanic, was last seen standing quietly in that exact smoking room, staring at a painting, waiting for the end. The warmth killed them just as surely as the ice. I used to watch movies about this night and think I would have survived. I told myself I would be smart, I would be rational, I would figure out a clever way off the ship. But that is a lie. If I were there, I would have been terrified. I would have felt the icy water hit my knees, and I would have panicked. I would have followed the screaming crowd straight up the main stairs, and I would have been trapped just like they were, because logic disappears when fear takes over. Earlier in the night, Captain Smith had ordered a specific set of doors to be opened, the gangway doors on E-deck. These were massive doors on the side of the ship, close to the waterline. The plan was to lower the lifeboats halfway down, open these doors, and let people walk straight onto the boats from inside the ship. It was a brilliant plan, a horizontal escape, but it failed. Because to get to the gangway doors, passengers on the middle decks would have had to walk down, toward the water, toward the danger. What would you do if the only way to live was to walk toward the thing that was trying to kill you? Nobody went down. The human brain simply refused to allow it. The gangway doors were left wide open, staring out into the black ocean, completely unused, while thousands of people crushed each other trying to reach the roof. And then came the final mistake. At 2:15 a.m., the bow of the Titanic plunged underwater. The massive stern of the ship lifted high into the night sky. The propellers rose out of the water. The ship tilted to a terrifying angle, and the remaining passengers gave in to their final, absolute instinct. They climbed. Hundreds of people grabbed the railings and pulled themselves up the slanted deck, crawling desperately toward the very back of the ship, the highest possible point. They thought they were escaping the water. They thought they were buying themselves a few more minutes of life. But climbing to the stern of a sinking ship is like climbing to the top of a giant slide over concrete. When the ship finally broke in half and the stern began its final plunge, the people who had climbed to the absolute top found themselves staring down a massive vertical drop. The higher they went, the harder they fell. They fell through the air, hitting steel machinery and debris on the way down. The instinct to reach the highest point is exactly what killed them before they even hit the water. Your brain is a survival machine built for the ancient world. It knows how to run from a lion. It knows how to pull your hand away from fire. But it does not know how to survive a sinking machine made of 50,000 tons of steel. That night, the ocean was freezing. The ship was broken. But the quiet, invisible killer was human instinct. The people who lived were the ones who realized that when the world is tipping upside down, up is the most dangerous direction you can go.